and a woman joined us there saying she had identified herself as a man. And but I was warned by the management never to raise it, because if I did, I would pay a six-figure fine before I return to Kenya. That is where we are. So the idea is that once you shout sexual orientation, you determine your gender. And currently there are over 157 gender categories across the world, including that of stars, birds, frogs. You can call yourself whatever you want. Countries like Canada have gone to the level of enacting what they call pronouns law, prescribing up to 39 pronouns you refer yourself to, so that you refer a girl as they be or as them for a single person. Now, the amendment of these provisions will seal the constitutional gaps the courts have been relying upon to introduce homosexuality in Kenya under the guise of judicial interpretation, and secure the legislative mandate, and secure that legislative mandate belongs to Parliament and constitution-making power remains with the people. These are the provisions our courts are using to make the Constitution, more so in matters concerning Bill of Rights, which is something reserved only to the people of Kenya as their governing instrument. We are engaged in a war, not only to save our society, but to salvage humanity from complete destruction from homosexuality or LGBTQ perversion. The war is not easy, and I can tell you it is not easy. It is full of intimidation. We are fighting people who are moneyed. We are fighting people who are very corrupt. We are fighting people who control instruments of power across the world. We are fighting people who are vengeful and very dark. But I say the war must be won, and it shall be won. In the United States of America, where homosexuals were thought to have succeeded, over 500 bills have been proposed in various state legislatures, in the House of Congress, and in the Senate, seeking to claw back against various aspects of LGBTQ or homosexuality in 2023 alone. I want to challenge you to go to Google and just type in anti-LGBTQ laws, United States. You will find that currently there are over 700 bills in the United States of America alone, taking back various aspects of LGBTQ. It is from gender affirming care for children, which allowed them to mutilate children and change their sex, comprehensive sexuality education, which they are pushing here, and various other aspects. Yet in Kenya and Africa, they want to push all of that, when in their country they know the destruction those aspects of LGBTQ have occasioned, and they are seeking to jettison them back. And as the media, you would know, in a state like Florida alone, the governor was signing up to 5 of them the other day. The government of America is doing nothing about it. But in Africa and in Kenya, when you propose a law to claw back on those very issues, it is a big issue that makes everybody come to run and threaten sanctions. So is the case with Europe and other countries forming the larger West, where laws with similar provisions as our Family Protection Bill have been proposed and variously passed. I can tell you in Europe, they were doing gender affirming care, which is sex change for children, up to 2 years ago. Currently, they have moved it from children. You can only change the sex of an adult because it requires informed decision, because the implementation is irreversible. And then they are moving it from 18 years. They are saying a mature adult is from 25. So you check Canada, you check Australia, you check the larger Europe, they are changing it. In Kenya, they are saying we want gender affirming care, and that is partly the topics to be taught under comprehensive sexuality education, which they are pushing into this country and which we are seeking to forbid against their push and will. Let's not forget the strong message the people of the United States and the world made against homosexuality or LGBTQ++ by collapsing Target stores, Bud Light beer, and other enterprises that attempted to go woke. And I will challenge you again, just type Bud Light beer there. In 1 week, the citizens of the United States rebelled from purchasing that beer, and that beer has collapsed. They lost billions in a week. You will see the figures there. Target is the biggest, or was the biggest clothesline in the world. Just approaching June, they went and typed those homosexual things, including on clothes for children. And rallying under what they call, you go woke, you go broke. The Americans resented purchasing from Target, and you know Target is as good as collapsed. You'll see the losses within just a week. It confirms the societies, including the societies of what we call the West, have rebelled against this thing. And their governments are doing nothing about it, but in Kenya and Africa, they come and give you money, and an ambassador is shouting to you how you should be homosexuals if you are civilized. I urge all persons and institutions of goodwill to stand firm and ready themselves to fight. Even when we don't win before the courts, as is the case across the world, I am certain we will win with the people and before the people's representatives in Parliament. And I can tell you, in as much as I've recommended we return to court, we are returning to prick their conscience. We are returning to ashame them. But I can tell you, even when I went, I knew that application would not be allowed. That we must keep coming. And I want to tell Kenyans, don't be disheartened. Wangari Maathai lost the battle in court for locus standi in protecting Uhuru Park, but she won by losing the battle. And by losing, all lawyers across the world sat down and asked, what is this locus standi thing which only entitles a few people to go to court and not everybody affected by a clean environment? So sometimes Kenyans may think we have lost, but I can tell you we have not lost. Courts by history is an elected arm of government, and it is an easy arm across the world, not just in Kenya, to be captured. And I doubt our courts will be an exception. So we are going there alive to that. But I'm cautioning our people that we are fighting people who are very powerful, people who have instruments of power, people who have money, people who are corrupt, and people who are very strong. But we will succeed because it is a battle for humanity. I wanted to end there and answer any clarification, if any you have.
You talk about this whole issue of intimidation. Is there one that has been directed at you, given your stand on this position?
Yeah, do I take all the questions so that I respond at once? It would be better. Or I respond one by one. Yeah, intimidation is there. You remember there is a time that we were seeking visa to go to countries that have adopted this perverted view that homosexuality is a human right. And there were threats not to allow me to travel to those countries. I can tell you, I have the strategy paper for these homosexuals, which I'm going to share with you after this press conference. And their strategy paper is a 5-point strategy paper. And when you will look at that strategy paper, you will no doubt see the determinations the courts have been giving in the context within their strategy. You will see even the delay we are noting in the processing of this bill in Parliament as a mentioned strategy line there. In their strategy, they are saying they must, delay us in Parliament because Parliament, as a representative institution for the people, will go with what the people want, which is passing the law. In their strategy, they are thinking of how they can intimidate, threaten, or even capture the executive, including our president. I'll give it to you, you see, so that you see the finer details. In their strategy, they are talking of how they will capture, even if it means corrupting the courts to get their way. And in those strategy paper, they say the court is their softest landing as they push homosexuality into the world. So I'm going to give you the strategy paper because they do not know I've also planted people among them to give me the feedback in terms of their thought processes, and we have them. So there is a lot of intimidation, and the intimidation is not just individual. You know what we saw in Uganda after they passed the anti-homosexuality law. The first one was killed by the court discreetly in this very similar manner our Supreme Court is behaving, and by the way the petitioners did not even know it had been killed in secret without mention, and it went. And you remember when they passed the current one, a spokesperson in State House issued a caution that Uganda has to withdraw the bill or they will not get PEPFAR funding. PEPFAR funding was a fund established by the President of the United States to help the fight of HIV/AIDS. I've researched into this matter, and all researchers, including from the US, confirm that homosexuals are more predisposed to HIV/AIDS. So when you are told if you pass a law against homosexuality, you will not get PEPFAR funding, what are they saying? They are saying they want you to infect one another so that their big pharmaceutical industries have somewhere to take their drugs. So they are fighting for a business with Africans. So you see the threat in Uganda, you see the idea of sanctions, the idea of withdrawing serious funding, and that is why recently, you remember they were circulating something on Twitter saying Kaluma among some MPs wrote to the House of Congress saying PEPFAR funding should not be brought to Kenya. That is not what we said. We said PEPFAR funding must continue to go towards fighting HIV/AIDS, and that issues like abortion, issues like LGBTQ or homosexuality should not be conditions upon which PEPFAR funding goes across the world. And that is a position we maintain. So those threats are there, but we are fighting, as I've said, to save humanity from total collapse. Because anybody saying people should be homosexuals is a person saying after this generation there should be no human person walking on the face of the earth. Because through homosexuality you cannot have new human beings. Anyway, so in this battle we don't care about those intimidations, which are obviously there. We don't mind them. But I'm going to share with you their strategy paper so that you see their scheme of things and how you will see what has been happening in Kenya falling into those scheme of things. Remember also the first executive order President Barack Obama signed when he became president in the United States was to declare homosexuality or LGBTQ as human rights and to appoint Hillary Clinton as the sole ambassador for this thing across the world. And you remember Hillary Clinton, who is not a lawyer, shouting homosexuality, LGBTQ are human rights. This right to go their natural way of reproducing or entertaining yourself, I don't know under what international instrument it is a right. But we are saying it is not for the United States or any country to define human rights for any other sovereign state. And we will stand with what we believe are rightfully human rights in Kenya.
Kenya kawaida ule mhalalile aliuliza umepoteza mahakamani. Hapa bungeni unalia kwamba kidogo mswada umekwama. Je, kuna matumaini kweli kwamba vita hivi ambavyo unapigana navyo utashinda?
Hatujapoteza mahakamani. Nimesema mahakama hakuangalia yale mambo tulipeleka pale mahakamani yaamuliwe. Mahakama hawaku consider the issues tulikuwa tumepeleka pale kwa niaba ya Wakenya, na hawakutatua hayo. Mahakama ilisema kwamba Kaluma hakuwa mojawapo wa wale walikuwa mahakamani wakati hiyo judgment ilikuwa imetolewa, na sababu ya hiyo Kaluma hawezi sikizwa na mahakama kwa ile grievances alikuwa amepeleka dhidi ya Wakenya, juu ya Wakenya huko. So we've not lost in court, na ndio maana ninasema bado lazima turudi huko. Kama wanasema Kaluma hawezi kuwa sababu hakuwa, we will still go back through other routes, or we will go back through the people who are in court before, because vile nimesema hiyo decision imetoka mahakamani, hatuwezi kubali isimame. au iwe, sababu ikiwa haki, hasa zile haki tumekuwa tumepigania, haki za wanawake na kadhalika, zitakuwa tumezipoteza hivyo tu. And ni kitu cha kustajabisha kwamba wengi wa wale ambao walitoa hiyo uamuzi ni wanawake, na mimi naofia kwamba hata National Gender and Equality Commission haijakaa kusoma ile judgment kuelewa kwamba hata 2/3 gender rule imeenda, sababu kama sex ina include sexual orientation. Ukija hapa bungeni ulize kama bunge iko well composed, na umesema gender ni kitu kila mtu anajiamulia, ni wajumbe tu kiasi wanaume watasimama wasema ni wanawake for the sake of 2/3 gender rule, na lazima uhesabu kama wanawake. The ministry in charge of gender pale chini ya Amina hajaona mpaka wakati huu kwamba hii vita haifai kuwa ya Kaluma, it should be theirs. And by the way, recently they established a multi-agency task force on realization of 2/3 gender rule. Are they even aware that 2/3 gender rule has been scrapped by that Supreme Court decision? They're not aware. And that is why I'm calling all institutions of goodwill and institutions concerned to come together. Bungeni tuko na processes ya kuweka sheria au bills kuwa sheria. Unaanza na drafting ambayo tumemaliza. Leo nitakukabidhi ile sheria tuko nayo. Najua iko moja ilikuwa inatembea, nawaambia sio hii. Ile tunataka ichapishwe na bunge tuijadili kama wabunge, iko hapa. Na nakuambia ile support iko kwa hii sheria hapa bungeni, wacha tu iwekwe mbele ya bunge utaona. Nafikiri iko juu ya 99.99%. Sasa kwa ile kucheleweshwa kuchapishwa kwa hiyo sheria, nimeandikia speaker vile nimesema tayari, na ninasubiri yale atasema. Lakini vile speaker Muturi na wengine walikuwa wanasema, ambayo ndio president tutaenda nayo, ni kwamba ile wakati committee has gone beyond the period inafaa wachukue kutatua, the speaker has to direct the bill to go for publication straight away. And that is the request I've made to the speaker, and I'll be giving you the letters I've written to the speaker so far, including today, to hasten the process. Now, jukumu la kuunda sheria iko bungeni, and I'm a member of parliament, so it cannot be stopped anywhere. Don't lose hope. The law will be before the house, and I can assure you, as I will, the sun will be setting in the west in the evening, this law will be passed near unanimously, because it is very good law. We are not fighting anybody. We are standing for the values which will protect our family as a Kenyan, and I'm not going beyond what the Constitution already prescribes.
So much in short, you are going back to the High Court to start this case afresh?
No, we are not going back to the High Court. We are going back to that Supreme Court, because the matter had left the High Court. And I've said we will knock at the door of that Supreme Court until we prick their conscience to know they exist for Kenyans, or until they feel adequately ashamed against whatever forces is subduing them to rule against the interest of Kenyans. And I'm saying, in as much as we are going there, law is not made by the courts. And that is why I'm telling you, we may fail in the courts. And courts have failed the world on this matter of homosexuality across the world. But the representatives of the people in parliament, because they represent the people, will never fail, because they cannot go against what the people want. And that is why I'm also proposing a constitutional amendment. You know, the moment we delete that provision the court is hiding under, and the moment we define sex as the biological state of being man or woman, finished. Whatever the court says has to be constitutional. And by the way, we are taking it lightly, but we are dealing with a very major issue. Just recently, the first woman prime minister of Australia was being asked what a woman is. Go to YouTube, and she cannot answer what a woman is. And she's a woman, elected because she's a woman. It's the mad world. The first black female judge of the Supreme Court of the United States when she was being vetted by the United States Senate, Ketanji Brown was asked a simple question, so what is a woman? Despite the fact that she was nominated because, number one, she's a woman, number two, she's black. She said she's not a biologist, she does not know who a woman is. Because they rely on this thing called sexual orientation, which says it is for an individual to determine their gender. Your gender or sex is not by birth. They are saying now gender is sexual orientation and gender identity. Gender is between the ears, not between the legs. And that is the nonsense they are pushing into this country, and that is the nonsense we are saying we must keep off. And whether the Supreme Court agrees or not, we will always remind them that they don't have power to make law. And we will make law which will, with finality, will settle the issue at once here.
Labda tuweza tuswali la kiukumbavu tu. Mbona rais pamoja na naibu wake hawajazungumzia hili swala zima wakati ambapo linaendelea katika
rais alitamka juu ya hili mambo. Nakumbuka it was the Women's Day, it was at a function at KICC. Na alisema with a lot of clarity, if you go to your recordings on YouTube or in your media stations, you find them. So the president has been very clear. And by the way, let me say, it would be a big mistake for the president to hide from this battle, because we have a president who was largely supported by Christians and Muslims. I can tell President Ruto that you run from this battle, you will lose the next elections, whenever it is called. Luckily, he has been very consistent. He has been very consistent in supporting our fight that these foreign things should be kept out. And I saw it in Kenya, during that forum I'm talking about, and other public fora. I saw him also being interviewed while outside of this country, and it was very clear that we have values to keep. The Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, also has been very clear, and I've seen the First Lady and the Second Lady have also been very clear, and I doubt they can be uncertain about this battle. So my hope and prayer is that they remain on the course, because this is about protecting our values as a people. This is about keeping off things which are detrimental to our society and only accepting those which are good. And we are not doing this with vendetta. You will read the bill I've provided, provision by provision, word by word, punctuation by punctuation through that bill has been deeply researched into and has been compared with what we have across the world, including in these nations pushing the idea here, while they are taking it from their countries.
Mheshimiwa, you say these people are very powerful, but they have taken they have paid the courts by the knees. What guarantee do you have that they will not hold parliament, or they have already held parliament by the courts?
Yeah, if you check what has been happening across the world, it is easy for them to go for the courts because the judges are few and they are not elected. They are not directly accountable to the people. They don't answer to the people directly. Now, why they have had difficulties with parliaments across the world, whether for states or federal, legislatures, is that parliaments are elected representatives of the people. So that you pass any law which is contrary to what the aspirations and the values of the people are, you lose your elections. And so I'm not bothered about this parliament. They cannot capture it, because you vote against this bill, you will not be seen here again come the next elections. Kenyans want this law, and it is a law which you will read and serialize. It's good law for the country. For the country. Why should people leave the natural way of reproduction for fellow human beings' access and bind, and you call it a human right? It is perversion. It's a simple perversion. And then by the way, this law again picks from the Constitution, because our Constitution at Article 45 says marriage is between a man and a woman. So those things they are pushing, like same-sex marriages, cannot get definition as marriage in our country. So we are just putting this law to elaborate on what we have underpinned in the Constitution already. We are done? Yes. Thank you very much. So I have copies of the statement. I made some additions. I've written to the Speaker proposing that law. Normally, that one I just took. This is the second reminder to the Speaker that the departmental committee had overdelayed. You see, another reminder was sent on 16th of August. So, and I'm told the Speaker is doing something. So for parliamentary processes to go through, we will not say much, but you should not worry. The law will be published. Yeah. The bill I'd given. Do you have it? And then also, if I have your, for easy writing, because I wanted to request you help me. We cannot have just one side speaking the way they were speaking after the judgment.